Have you ever felt the earth shift beneath your feet? Not from a tremor, but from words. Words spoken by those you love most, cutting deeper than any blade, leaving you breathless in a silence that screams betrayal. Imagine a moment, a seemingly ordinary evening, when the very foundation of your world crumbles, not with a bang, but with a whisper that redefines your place, your worth, your entire existence within the sanctuary you built with your own hands. It's a primal fear, isn't it? The fear of being forgotten, of being deemed secondary, of discovering that your unwavering love was, in their eyes, merely a convenience. This isn't just a story about a family. It's about the invisible lines we draw, the unspoken rules we live by, and what happens when those lines are brutally erased, leaving you standing alone in the wreckage of expectations. What would you do if the people you cherished most, the ones you sacrificed everything for, suddenly declared you were always last? And what if, in that devastating realization, you found a strength you never knew you possessed, a quiet fire ready to burn down the old world to build a new one? The scent of roasted chicken still lingered in the air, a comforting aroma that usually signaled warmth and togetherness, but that night, it felt like a cruel joke. My hands, still slightly sticky from kneading the dough for the homemade rolls, trembled almost imperceptibly as I cleared the dinner plates. It had been a quiet meal, too quiet, punctuated only by the clinking of silverware and the occasional, forced pleasantry. My daughter Lily had been unusually withdrawn, her eyes darting between me and her father, Mark, as if she were rehearsing a difficult speech. I remember thinking, with a pang of maternal worry, that perhaps she was struggling with something at college, or maybe a disagreement with her boyfriend, Ethan. Little did I know, the storm wasn't brewing outside. It was gathering force right here, at our meticulously set dining table, a table that had witnessed countless celebrations, heart-to-heart talks, and the quiet rhythm of our family life for over 2 decades. Mark, ever the stoic, had been unusually attentive to Lily, a subtle shift in his demeanor that I, with my finely tuned mother's intuition, had picked up on immediately. He kept refilling her water glass, offering her more chicken, a silent, almost conspiratorial tenderness that felt alien. It was as if they were sharing a secret, a heavy burden that I, the matriarch, the one who held us all together, was somehow excluded from. The air grew thick with unspoken words, a palpable tension that made my skin prickle. I tried to break it, to inject some normalcy into the suffocating atmosphere. "So, Lilybug," I began, using the old nickname that always brought a smile to her face. "How was your study group today? Did you make any progress on that history paper?" Her gaze flickered to mine, then quickly away, a shadow crossing her features. "It was fine, Mom," she mumbled, pushing a piece of chicken around her plate. "We got a lot done." Her voice was flat, devoid of the usual enthusiasm she had for her studies. Then, the moment arrived, shattering the fragile piece like a dropped crystal vase. Lily took a deep breath, her small frame seeming to shrink under the weight of her words. "Mom," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ethan and we've been talking a lot lately, about our future." My heart swelled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Future? Was she going to tell me about an engagement? A move? Something big? I leaned forward, a hopeful smile on my face, ready to offer my unconditional support, my wisdom, my boundless love. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful. What have you two decided?" I asked, my voice light, completely unprepared for the emotional blow that was about to land. She looked at Mark, a silent plea passing between them, and he gave her a small, encouraging nod. It was then that a cold dread began to seep into my bones. This wasn't good news. This wasn't a celebration. This was something else entirely. Lily turned back to me, her eyes clouded with a strange mix of defiance and what looked like a flicker of regret. "We've decided that, well, Ethan's family is really important to him. They're very close, and they have a lot of traditions. And he needs me to be fully committed to that. To them." She paused, and the silence that followed was deafening, filled with the unspoken implication that I was already dreading. "So," she continued, her voice gaining a strange, almost rehearsed firmness, "his family comes first. You'll always come last." The words hung in the air, sharp and precise, like icicles forming in the dead of winter. You'll always come last. It wasn't a question. It was a pronouncement, a verdict delivered with a chilling finality. My breath hitched in my throat, and the world around me seemed to tilt on its axis. I looked at Mark, my husband of 25 years, the man who had promised to cherish me, to stand by me, to build a life with me. His eyes met mine for a fleeting second, devoid of surprise, devoid of protest, devoid of the outrage I expected. He simply nodded, a slow, deliberate movement, as if confirming a weather report, not endorsing a declaration that just ripped my heart from my chest. "She's right, Sarah," he said, his voice calm, steady, utterly detached. "It just makes sense for her future." In that moment, the roasted chicken, the homemade rolls, the carefully chosen tablecloth, the entire facade of our family life dissolved into an illusion. My daughter, my flesh and blood, the child I had nurtured, protected, and loved with every fiber of my being, had just relegated me to the bottom of her priority list, and my husband, my partner, had sealed the judgment with a single, indifferent nod. The pain was physical, a searing ache that spread through my chest, stealing my breath. I wanted to scream, to cry, to demand an explanation, to shake them both until they saw the cruelty of their words. But a strange, cold clarity settled over me instead. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a truth I had subconsciously known, but fiercely denied for years. This wasn't a sudden decision. It was the culmination of a pattern, a quiet ranking system that had always existed, just beneath the surface of our seemingly normal lives. What other unspoken truths had I been blind to, and what would it truly mean to be last in the lives of those I loved most? The silence that followed Lily's pronouncement and Mark's chilling agreement was not empty. It was heavy, suffocating, filled with the echoes of shattered expectations and the ghost of a future I had always envisioned. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I didn't even shed a tear in that moment. My emotional circuit seemed to short-circuit, leaving behind a stark, almost clinical detachment. All I could manage was a quiet, understood. It was a phrase I had used countless times in my professional life, a neutral acknowledgement of information received. But now, it carried the weight of a universe collapsing. That was the precise instant I stopped waiting for a place at their table, not just metaphorically, but in every tangible sense. The invisible threads that had bound me to their needs, their desires, their unspoken demands began to fray and snap, one by one. I felt an immediate, almost instinctual urge to reclaim myself, to pull back every piece of me that I had so freely given. My time, which I had always allocated generously to their schedules, their emergencies, their whims, suddenly felt precious, finite, and exclusively mine. My money, carefully managed and often diverted to support their aspirations, Lily's college fund, Mark's various entrepreneurial ventures that never quite took off, now seemed to demand a new purpose, a purpose solely for me. My plans, often postponed or reshaped to accommodate their priorities, resurfaced in my mind with a newfound urgency, demanding to be seen, to be honored. It was a silent, internal revolution, a radical act of self-preservation, born from the ashes of profound rejection. In the days and weeks that followed, a strange, almost sterile quiet settled over our home. Lily moved out shortly after, citing the need to be closer to Ethan and his family, to fully immerse herself in their world. Mark, for his part, seemed to retreat further into himself, his presence in the house becoming a mere shadow, a ghost of the man I once knew. The conversations thinned out, becoming transactional, devoid of warmth or genuine connection. I found myself walking through rooms that once buzzed with laughter and shared stories, now filled with an eerie emptiness. It was a silence that surprisingly began to feel clean, a canvas wiped bare, ready for a new masterpiece. I was no longer constantly anticipating their needs, no longer bracing myself for the next subtle slight, no longer performing the emotional labor of keeping our family afloat. This newfound quiet, though initially painful, slowly transformed into a space for introspection, a fertile ground for the seeds of a separate life, a separate future, to take root. Yet, even as I began to cultivate this new internal landscape, the echoes of the past, the subtle ways this hierarchy had always manifested, began to surface with startling clarity. I started to see the quiet ranking system that had always permeated the walls of our house, a system I had been too close, too invested, too hopeful to acknowledge before. It wasn't just in the words spoken that night. It was in the way footsteps changed depending on who walked in, heavier and more confident for Mark and Lily, lighter and almost apologetic for me. It was in how conversations would rise in volume and animation when they entered a room, only to thin out, become hushed, or even cease altogether when I did. No one ever said it outright back then, not in so many words, but they didn't have to. The hierarchy lived in the small things, the almost imperceptible gestures, the subtle shifts in attention that spoke volumes without uttering a single sound. I remembered Lily's 16th birthday, a vibrant explosion of joy and extravagance. Our driveway had glowed under the streetlights, illuminated by the pristine metallic sheen of a brand new car, a sleek convertible that caught every shimmer of light. Mark and I had stood beside it, a professional photographer capturing every angle, every beaming smile as we handed her the keys. My voice, sharp with pride, had declared, "Your future is worth investing in, my love." 6 months later, on my own 16th birthday, the kitchen light had hummed over a small store-bought cake. No candles, no surprise waiting outside, just Mark sliding a simple card across the counter. "We're proud of you," it read, in printed, impersonal letters. I had smiled anyway, a practiced, almost automatic response. I knew the script by heart. Lily got the spotlight, the grand gestures, the public adoration. I got the quiet nod, the understated acknowledgement, the private, almost reluctant affirmation. It was a pattern, a silent agreement that had been woven into the fabric of our lives long before that fateful dinner. This realization, though painful, was also liberating. It wasn't a sudden betrayal. It was the unveiling of a long-standing truth. The pain wasn't new. It was simply being acknowledged for the first time. And in that acknowledgement, a strange sense of power began to stir within me. If I had always been last, if my worth was always secondary in their eyes, then perhaps it was time to redefine what first meant for myself. The question that now burned in my mind, a quiet ember in the growing silence, was not if I could survive this, but how I would thrive, and what kind of woman would emerge from the ashes of this profound family betrayal. What would it truly look like to build a life where I was unequivocally, unapologetically first? The pattern of favoritism, once a subtle undercurrent I had rationalized away, now surged to the surface of my memory with an undeniable force, painting a vivid, almost cinematic, retrospective of my life. College, for instance, had followed the exact same script as our 16th birthdays, but with higher stakes and deeper implications. Lily received generous checks for tuition, for books, for a chic apartment near her campus, complete with a decorator's touch. Her every academic whim was indulged, every comfort provided, every obstacle smoothed away by the unwavering financial support of her parents. It was an investment, Mark would often say, in her bright future, a testament to her potential. I, on the other hand, received a stern lecture about responsibility, the virtues of hard work, and the profound satisfaction of earning my own way. "You're independent, Sarah," my mother-in-law, who often echoed Mark's sentiments, would say, her tone implying it was a flaw I had chosen, a burden I had willingly taken upon myself. "You manage fine." And so I did. I managed. I stocked shelves in the early mornings, the fluorescent lights of the grocery store casting a harsh glow on my tired face, my hands aching from lifting heavy boxes. At night, fueled by cheap coffee and an unyielding determination, I wrote code for small freelance projects, translating complex ideas into elegant digital solutions for clients who barely knew my name. Every spare dollar, every hard-earned cent, was meticulously saved, earmarked for community college tuition, for textbooks, for the meager rent of a shared apartment. It was a grueling existence, a constant tightrope walk between exhaustion and ambition, but I never complained. I simply absorbed the unspoken message. My independence was not a strength to be celebrated, but a convenient excuse for their lack of investment. It was a quiet burden, a solitary path I walked while Lily soared on the wings of their unwavering support. I remember one particularly poignant moment during my last shift at the grocery store, just before the fall semester began. I was in the break room, a sterile space filled with the scent of stale coffee and microwave popcorn. Someone had taped a picture of their family vacation on the fridge. Sun-drenched beaches, colorful umbrellas, arms thrown over shoulders in joyful embrace. It struck me then, with a sharp, almost physical ache, that Lily had albums full of those moments, entire chronicles of family togetherness, laughter, and shared experiences. I, on the other hand, didn't have a single family photo after the age of 13, where I wasn't standing awkwardly on the edge of the frame, a peripheral figure, an afterthought. The realization was a quiet punch to the gut, a stark visual representation of my perceived place within the family narrative. Graduation day for my associate degree came and went, a milestone achieved through sheer grit and countless sleepless nights. My parents-in-law, along with Mark, were out of town that weekend, attending Lily's elaborate baby shower, a lavish affair complete with a themed cake and designer gifts. I crossed the stage alone, my name echoing in a hall of strangers, a solitary figure amidst a sea of proud families. Afterward, I called home, hoping for a word of congratulations, a shared moment of triumph. My mother-in-law answered, her voice harried, between errands. "That's wonderful, honey," she said, her tone distracted. "But Lily's contractions started early, and we're helping her organize the hospital bag. I'll call you later." She didn't. The call never came. It was another quiet dismissal, another confirmation that my achievements, hard-won and significant, paled in comparison to Lily's every life event. When I transferred to a 4-year university on a partial scholarship, a testament to my academic prowess and relentless effort, they called it a nice little achievement, a polite but dismissive acknowledgement. Lily's wedding, however, was the event of the decade, a grand spectacle that consumed their attention and resources for months. Mark and his parents walked through the reception hall like they had built it themselves, beaming with pride, basking in the reflected glow of Lily's perfect life. I stood near the bar, a silent observer, while well-meaning relatives told me how lucky I was to have a sister-in-law with such an idyllic existence, as if her shine somehow reflected on me. It didn't. Not really. Her brilliance only served to highlight my own perceived dimness, my peripheral status. After I finally graduated with my engineering degree, after the long nights spent hunched over textbooks, after choosing survival over sleep more times than I could count, I waited. I waited to see if someone, anyone, would truly notice the magnitude of my accomplishment, the sheer willpower it had taken. My mother-in-law offered a hurried congratulation between pouring juice for Lily's toddler. Mark, distracted, asked if I had any prospects yet, while Noah, Lily's husband, talked loudly about refinancing their house, completely oblivious to my presence. No one asked how I managed it alone. No one asked what I wanted next. By then, I had learned to stop expecting space to open for me. I had learned to carve out my own small, at first, but steadily growing corner of the world. A few shrewd investments, strict budgeting, a quiet apartment with dim morning light that was entirely mine. My name wasn't on the wall of family photos, but it was finally on my own lease, my own plans, my own future. The question now was, how long could I continue to pretend that this quiet, self-made existence was enough? And what would it take for me to finally demand the recognition, the respect, and the love I deserved? Looking back, the pattern was not just clear. It was stark, etched into the very fabric of our shared history. Every celebration, every crisis, every passing season, Lily was the sun, and I was merely an orbiting satellite, a distant observer in her vibrant universe. That fateful dinner, with its brutal pronouncement, wasn't the beginning of my being last. It was simply the moment the unspoken truth was finally articulated, laid bare for me to see, undeniable and raw. It was the day, somewhere between the car keys I never held and the quiet cake I blew out alone, that I truly learned my place in this family. The message had been delivered repeatedly, in 1,000 subtle ways, but that night, it resonated with a finality that stripped away all my lingering illusions. Then, just when the silence between us had finally begun to feel clean, when I had started to settle into the rhythm of my separate life, the family emergency hit them, harder than any of us expected. It wasn't a slow burn. It was a sudden, catastrophic implosion. The message came late on a Wednesday. A short, clipped text from Mark. Family meeting Sunday. Important. No context. No question if I was free. No hint of urgency beyond the single stark word. It felt less like an invitation and more like an appointment, a summons to a court where I was already presumed guilty of something, or perhaps simply expected to be present and compliant. A familiar knot of dread tightened in my stomach, a ghost of the old subservience, but this time it was quickly overshadowed by a quiet resolve. I was no longer the girl who waited on the periphery. I was a woman who had built her own world, brick by painstaking brick. When I walked into the living room that weekend, the air was thick with a quiet panic, a palpable tension that hummed beneath the surface of forced composure. Papers were spread across the coffee table like scattered autumn leaves, each one a testament to their unraveling. Overdue payment notices, printed bank statements with highlighted sections, legal documents I couldn't quite decipher from a distance. Lily sat stiffly on the edge of the sofa, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her usual vibrant energy replaced by a brittle anxiety. Noah, her husband, avoided eye contact, his gaze fixed on some distant point on the wall, his shoulders hunched in defeat. Mark and his parents had pulled both recliners forward, positioning themselves at the head of the negotiation table, a silent declaration of their authority, their expectation of control. My mother-in-law, ever the pragmatist, didn't waste time with pleasantries. Her voice was sharp, devoid of its usual saccharine sweetness. "There's been a situation," she began, her eyes sweeping over me with a mixture of accusation and desperate hope. "Your sister and Noah are facing some significant financial strain." Strain, I quickly realized, was a gross understatement. The mortgage was months behind, threatening foreclosure. The children's private school tuition hadn't been paid, jeopardizing their enrollment. And then there was a legal issue, which my mother-in-law skimmed over quickly, her voice betraying a hint of shame that had left Noah unable to work for the foreseeable future. Every number on the page, every highlighted section, pointed in the same terrifying direction. Collapse. Mark sighed, a heavy theatrical sound, tapping the stack of bills with a weary finger. "We've done the math," he stated, his voice laced with a manufactured helplessness. "Your mother and I can cover part of it, but not all. Lily needs immediate help." He looked at me then, a direct, unwavering gaze that held a silent command. I waited. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I wanted to see how long it would take for them to articulate the unspoken expectation, to lay bare the quiet truth that had always governed our interactions. Not long at all. My mother-in-law leaned forward, her eyes piercing mine. "We expect you to take care of the rest, Sarah," she declared, her voice firm, leaving no room for debate. "You're single. You have a stable job and you don't carry the same expenses. It just makes sense." There it was, the quiet truth laid bare again, stark and unapologetic. Lily first, me last, always. No one asked whether I could afford it. No one asked if I was already carrying my own burdens, my own financial responsibilities, my own dreams that required careful nurturing. No one asked anything. They simply assumed, their entitlement a thick, suffocating blanket. Mark slid a printed list across the table, a cold, impersonal document detailing their demands. "This is what we need covered immediately," he explained, his finger tracing the lines. "Mortgage catch-up, tuition payment, retainer for legal fees, monthly estimates highlighted in yellow. Expected. Assigned. Mine. Lily," her voice trembling, whispered, "We really need you, Sarah." As if need itself was a currency I owed, a debt I was obligated to pay simply by existing. The room blurred at the edges, the ticking clock on the mantelpiece, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the weight of years pressing on the same old bruise. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just looked at the numbers, then at them, and let the silence settle. A new kind of silence, one that felt charged with a nascent power. They expected me to pay. I only said, "I'll need 24 hours." What would those 24 hours truly hold? And what kind of impossible choice was I about to make? Not for them, but for myself. The drive home was strangely quiet, a stark contrast to the tumultuous storm raging within me. No music, no podcasts, just the low hum of my old car and the relentless echo of my daughter's voice circling back in perfect clarity. "You'll always come last." It had been said in passing, tossed across a dinner table like a discarded napkin, a casual cruelty that had burrowed deep into my soul, but it lived deeper still, embedded in the very walls of our house, woven into the pattern of every choice they had ever made, every priority they had ever set. That truth, once a quiet, painful whisper, had finally spoken itself aloud, undeniable and raw. And now, they wanted me to forget it, to erase decades of emotional neglect and financial disparity, simply because they needed something. The sheer audacity of it, the profound entitlement, was breathtaking in its scope. I parked my car in my usual spot, the familiar crunch of gravel under the tires a small comfort in the chaos of my thoughts. I locked the door behind me and stood in the stillness of my apartment, a space I had meticulously built, piece by painstaking piece. It was clean, sparse, a sanctuary crafted by my own hands, funded by my own money, shaped by my own choices. For years, I had carried their expectations, quietly accommodating them without protest, because resistance had always felt pointless, a futile struggle against an immovable force. But the silence now felt different, charged, clear, imbued with a nascent power I was only just beginning to understand. It was the silence of a woman who had finally reached her breaking point, not with a scream, but with a quiet, resolute determination. I opened my laptop, the familiar glow of the screen a beacon in the dim light of my living room. First, my accounts, checking, savings, investment portfolios. The numbers didn't surprise me. I had memorized them the way some people memorize birthdays, a testament to years of controlled spending, strict budgets, and automatic deposits into long-term funds. I had lived like someone who always expected the world to forget her, to leave her to fend for herself, and that relentless discipline, that quiet vigilance, had built a financial foundation no one in my family knew existed, a secret fortress of security I had forged in solitude. My fingers moved steadily across the keyboard, a calm, deliberate rhythm. I separated everything, creating new folders, new labels, personal, private, secure. Then I pulled up statements, months, then years, then the entire archive of my financial independence. I dragged them into a fresh folder on my desktop. Independent, I named it. It felt accurate, a declaration of sovereignty. On the other side of the room, Ava, my closest friend and confidant, sat down, placing a bag of takeout on the small coffee table. She didn't speak. She didn't ask. She just watched me, the way she always did, quietly, without assumption, her presence a grounding force in my turbulent world. Ava had a way of seeing beyond the surface, of understanding the unspoken battles I fought. When she finally crossed the room, she placed her hand gently on the back of my chair, a silent gesture of support. "You're not choosing against them," she said, her voice soft, yet firm. "You're choosing for yourself." I didn't answer, but her words settled into my spine like an alignment, a realignment of my moral compass, a validation of the path I was about to embark on. I opened a spreadsheet next. Columns, formulas, projections. I mapped out exactly what they had asked of me. Mortgage catch-up, school tuition, legal retainer, estimated monthly overflow. Numbers don't lie. And these numbers, when laid bare, were not a request. They were a restructuring of my entire life to save someone else's, a complete dismantling of my hard-won independence for the sake of their reckless choices. For years, they had dressed it up as love, as responsibility, as family duty. But I had been paying full price for a place I was never allowed to sit, for a seat at a table where I was always last. The cursor blinked, a silent challenge. I added another column, terms. If I helped, and I wasn't entirely sure I would, it would not be the way they expected. Not charity, not sacrifice, not the old cycle where pain was the price of belonging. I drafted the framework slowly, meticulously, each condition a deliberate stroke of a brush painting a new reality. A loan with interest, a 5-year repayment plan, mandatory financial counseling for Lily and Noah, mandatory family therapy for all of us, and a written acknowledgement of the favoritism I had lived under for nearly 3 decades. A new structure for every future request. Written proposals, clear limits, no guilt. Each condition was clean, neutral, administrative, nothing vengeful, everything fair. I printed the draft and set it aside, a tangible representation of my newfound boundaries. Then I reached for the next layer of the plan, practical boundaries. I scrolled through my banking apps and removed every auto payment connected to family expenses, old holiday contributions, split purchases for Lily's kids, a streaming subscription Mark and his parents never reimbursed me for. Small things but symbolic. Quiet leaks I'd allowed for years, draining my resources and my spirit. Delete, delete, delete. Each confirmation screen felt like a stone lifted off my chest, a burden shed. I went to my email next, typed a short, concise message, and saved it as a draft. If things escalated, if they refused to acknowledge my terms, I'd send it without hesitation. Simple, firm. I will not assume responsibility for decisions I did not make. My apartment was silent again, except for the soft hum of the heater kicking on. Ava sat on the couch now, legs folded beneath her, watching me without interrupting. There was no pity in her eyes, only recognition. "You've been holding your breath your whole life," she said gently. "Tonight is the first time I've seen you exhale." Maybe she was right. My shoulders felt lower, my jaw unclenched. I returned to the table, gathered the printed pages into a neat stack, and placed them inside a plain folder. No dramatic labels, no markings, just order. I imagined the scene tomorrow. Mark and his parents leaning forward, Lily wringing her hands, Noah rehearsing justifications, all of them assuming my 24 hours were spent finding a painless way to give them everything. They had no idea this silence was not submission. It was preparation. I closed the folder. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Anger requires hope. Hope that someone will see you, choose you, treat you differently. I didn't hope for that now. I only wanted truth, structure, and a life that finally belonged to me. Ava's voice softened. "What happens tomorrow?" I slid the folder into my bag. "I tell them I don't fix what they break anymore." My dear friends, if you've ever felt the sting of being overlooked, the quiet ache of being last in someone's eyes, then you know the profound truth of this journey. This isn't just my story. It's a reflection of the battles many of us fight in silence, the moments we choose to reclaim our power. If this resonates with your spirit, if you've found a piece of yourself in these words, then I invite you to join this growing community. Subscribe if you feel called to, and let's continue to explore these deep, human experiences together. Your presence here means the world to me, and I cherish every single one of you who chooses to walk this path with me. They were already seated when I arrived. The same living room, the same recliners pulled forward, creating that familiar, intimidating semicircle. The same stack of bills was spread across the coffee table, a grim altar built for urgency, for their perceived crisis. But this time, something was profoundly different. I wasn't carrying guilt, that heavy, invisible cloak I had worn for so long. Instead, I was carrying a folder, a tangible symbol of my newfound resolve, my carefully constructed boundaries. Ava walked beside me, her presence a quiet anchor, steady and unwavering. She took a seat near the window, a silent witness, not there to argue or intervene, but simply to observe, to hold space for me. Her calm energy was a shield against the familiar emotional onslaught I knew was coming. My mother-in-law clasped her hands, a practiced gesture of relief. "Good. You're here, Sarah. We can sort it all out now." Her voice held an undertone of expectation, a certainty that I would, as always, be their solution. Mark exhaled with a dramatic sigh, a performance of relief. "We knew you'd come through, Sarah. We always knew we could count on you." Lily offered a trembling smile, her eyes still red-rimmed from what I assumed were tears of anxiety. "We really appreciate this, Mom," she whispered, using the familial term that now felt like a hollow echo. They were thanking me, I realized with a chilling clarity, for a decision I had not yet made, for a sacrifice they already assumed I would offer. Their entitlement was a thick, suffocating fog, blinding them to any possibility other than my immediate capitulation. I sat down, placing the plain folder on the table with a soft thud that seemed to reverberate through the tense silence. Then, slowly, deliberately, I lifted the cover. Inside, neatly arranged, were my bank statements, investment summaries, retirement allocations, target date portfolios, stock option agreements, a comprehensive, undeniable testament to my financial independence and meticulous planning. The room shifted, a subtle but palpable change in the atmosphere. My mother-in-law leaned forward first, her eyes narrowing, a flicker of confusion, then suspicion, crossing her face. "What? What is all this?" she demanded, her voice losing its earlier composure. I slid one page toward her, a summary of my net worth. Context, I stated, my voice calm, even, devoid of emotion. Mark reached for another document, scanning the numbers, his brow furrowed in concentration. The only sound in the room was the rustle of paper as he flipped through the pages. He froze halfway through, his hand hovering over a column of figures. It wasn't just the balance that shocked him. It was the sudden, sharp realization that they knew absolutely nothing about my life, about the quiet empire I had built for myself. Every assumption, every preconceived idea of who I was, the struggling, overlooked daughter-in-law, the convenient last resort, crumbled in his hands, reduced to dust by the undeniable evidence before him. My mother-in-law's voice went thin, laced with a bewildered indignation. "Why didn't you ever tell us you were doing this, Sarah?" she accused, as if my financial success was a personal affront, a secret kept to spite them. "You never asked," I said, the truth simple, unadorned and devastating in its honesty. Silence dropped, clean and absolute, a chasm opening between us. I pulled out the next document, the loan terms, and slid it across the table. Noah, who had been silent until now, leaned forward, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Is this a contract?" he asked, his voice hesitant. I nodded. "If you want financial help, it won't be blind sacrifice. It will be structure." My mother-in-law recoiled, her face a mask of disbelief. "Structure? For family?" she scoffed, as if the very idea was an insult. "For adults," I corrected, my gaze steady, unwavering. Mark scanned the page, his eyes widening as he absorbed the details. 5-year repayment, interest, monthly installments, financial counseling. His voice cracked on the last words, the implications sinking in. "It's standard," I said, my tone neutral. "If I help, you learn how not to need me again." Lily stared at me, her eyes wide, wounded, a silent accusation in their depths. "You're making us sign something? We're your family. You made me responsible for your decisions," I reminded her calmly, my voice unwavering. "This prevents that from happening again." Noah bristled, a flash of anger in his eyes. "This doesn't feel fair," I cut in, my voice sharp with a truth he couldn't deny. "It feels fair." He went silent, deflated. I continued, my voice gaining a quiet power. "There's more." I turned to Mark and his parents. "You'll attend therapy, not to assign blame, but to understand the system we've all been living in." My mother-in-law stiffened, her posture rigid with indignation. "We're not dysfunctional." "You told me I was always last," I reminded her quietly, the words hanging in the air like a judgment. "That was dysfunction speaking." She looked away, unable to meet my gaze, and I added, "There will be public acknowledgement. At the next family gathering, you will address the favoritism, the imbalance, the history of expectation placed only on me." Mark shook his head, his face pale. "This is humiliating." "It's honest," I said, my voice unwavering. "Humiliation only happens when the truth is too heavy to hold." The room tightened around us, everyone suddenly smaller in their chairs, their carefully constructed world crumbling. Finally, I pushed the last document toward them. "This is what you asked from me. Mortgage catch-up, tuition, legal retainer. These are your numbers. This is the cost of your choices." The terms sat openly before them, clear, neutral, unemotional. My mother-in-law whispered, her voice barely audible. "You really won't help unless we agree to this?" I met her gaze, my own eyes holding a quiet resolve. I said, "Understood at that dinner." I meant it. Once I understood my place in this family, I stopped standing in the space you carved out for me. If I'm always last here, then I have to be first in my own life. No one spoke. I reached into the folder one more time and placed a pen on top of the contract. It rolled slightly, then stilled. "You have 24 hours, I said, my voice echoing their own ultimatum back to them. "The same time you gave me." Mark swallowed hard, his throat working. "And if we say no?" I stood, lifting my bag. Ava rose silently beside me. "Then," I said, my voice clear and strong, "you handle your own emergencies, just like I learned to handle mine." I walked to the door. Behind me, the room stayed frozen, a tableau of shock and disbelief. What would their choice be? And how would this single act of defiance reshape the very foundation of our fractured family? The next 24 hours stretched before me, a vast expanse of anticipation and quiet reflection. I didn't wait by the phone, nor did I replay the scene in my mind with agonizing detail. Instead, I immersed myself in the rhythm of my own life, a life I had fought so hard to build. I went to work, focusing on the intricate logic of code, finding solace in the predictable patterns of algorithms. I cooked a simple, nourishing meal for myself, savoring each bite, a small act of self-care that felt profoundly significant. Ava and I spent the evening talking, not about the family drama, but about our shared dreams, about the future we were building together, a future free from the shadows of past expectations. Her presence was a balm, a constant reminder that I was not alone, that my worth was not contingent on the approval of those who had consistently undervalued me. Yet, beneath the surface of this newfound calm, a quiet tension hummed. I knew the weight of their decision, the magnitude of the choice they faced. It wasn't just about money, it was about power, about control, about the dismantling of a long-established hierarchy. For them, agreeing to my terms meant acknowledging their own failures, confronting their patterns of favoritism, and relinquishing the comfortable illusion of my perpetual availability. It meant stepping into a new, uncomfortable reality where I was an equal, a negotiator, not a subordinate. For me, their refusal would mean a final, definitive severing of ties, a painful but necessary step towards complete emotional liberation. I was prepared for either outcome, my heart a strange mix of trepidation and resolute peace. The call came precisely at the 24-hour mark, a notification on my phone from Mark. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and answered. His voice was strained, devoid of its usual bluster, tinged with a reluctant resignation. "Sarah," he began, we've discussed your terms. At length. There was a pause, heavy with unspoken struggle. Lily and Noah, they've agreed to the financial counseling and the repayment plan. They'll sign the contract. A small, almost imperceptible sigh of relief escaped me. It was a start. "And the therapy?" I asked, my voice even. Another pause, longer this time. "Your mother and I will attend the sessions, and the public acknowledgement will do it." The words were delivered with a clear reluctance, a hint of lingering resentment, but they were spoken nonetheless. It wasn't an enthusiastic acceptance, but it was an acceptance. The first crack in their impenetrable wall of denial. 6 months passed before I walked back into that house, not for a crisis, not for a demand, but for a scheduled family therapy session, our last one. The changes hadn't happened overnight, nor were they without their struggles. There were moments of resistance, of backsliding, of old patterns resurfacing like stubborn weeds, but the seeds of change had been planted, and with the consistent, firm hand of Dr. Miriam, our therapist, they had begun to take root. Lily and Noah had signed the terms, and to their credit, every installment of the loan arrived on the same day each month, transferred cleanly, without excuses or delays. The mandatory financial counseling had been a harsh but necessary wake-up call, reshaping the way they moved through the world. Their spending grew quieter, their decisions more deliberate, less impulsive. They no longer spoke as if their needs were gravity, and everyone else must orbit around them. They were learning, slowly, painfully, to stand on their own 2 feet. Mark and his parents changed too, though their changes came more slowly, like thawing ground after a long, bitter winter. In therapy, Dr. Miriam, with her gentle but unwavering guidance, led them toward words they had spent years avoiding: patterns, imbalance, expectations, truths spoken without flinching. My mother-in-law, a woman I had rarely seen vulnerable, cried the first time she said, her voice choked with emotion, "We didn't see you, Sarah. We truly didn't see you." And Mark, my husband, the man who had nodded in agreement to my being last, cried the first time he truly believed her, the weight of his own complicity finally settling upon him. It was a raw, painful process, but in those shared tears, in those difficult acknowledgments, a fragile new foundation began to form, not of unconditional acceptance, but of honest, if belated, recognition. And me? I wasn't angry anymore. The searing pain had dulled, replaced by a quiet understanding. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for their approval, not for their validation, not for a place at their table. My life had widened, expanded beyond the narrow confines of their expectations. I had moved into a brighter apartment in the city, one with tall windows where the mornings felt like a beginning instead of a negotiation. My desk held only what truly mattered: my laptop, a favorite mug, and a small, vibrant plant Ava had bought me. Because, as she said, every new chapter needs something living. We spent slow Sundays exploring new neighborhoods, stopping for coffee, speaking about futures without measuring them against anyone else's needs. Ava never asked me to shrink, never expected me to rescue her. We met in the middle, two people building something authentic, without the ghosts of past betrayals tugging at the edges. On quiet nights, I cooked while she read on the couch, and sometimes she'd look up and say, "You seem lighter, Sarah." And I realized she was right. My shoulders no longer curled inward, my hands no longer tightened around invisible expectations. Silence didn't feel like punishment anymore. It felt like air, clean and free. The loan statements from Lily and Noah were tucked away in a drawer, organized, but no longer emotional. They were proof that fairness could exist where chaos once lived. Before leaving the final therapy session, Dr. Miriam said gently, "This is a family learning to walk differently, Sarah, and you were the one who changed the ground beneath them." Driving home, evening light stretched across the road, a tapestry of possibilities. My apartment waited, quiet, warm, mine. For the first time in my life, nothing felt borrowed. I placed my keys on the table, the metal soft against the wood, nothing like the glittering set Lily once held in the driveway. This set was quiet, earned, chosen. The window was open just enough for the evening air to move through the room, steady and cool. Ava was in the kitchen, humming softly, the kind of sound that didn't ask anything of me. Families don't always change because they want to. Sometimes they change because someone stops carrying the weight for them. I believed them when they said I was always last. That's when I stopped standing in their shadow and finally stepped into my own light. The journey from being last to being first in my own life was not a straight path, but a winding road filled with unexpected detours and profound revelations. It wasn't just about the financial independence or the renegotiated family dynamics. It was about an internal shift, a recalibration of my entire being. The quiet strength I had discovered in those initial 24 hours had blossomed into a deep-seated resilience, a knowing that I could face any challenge, any betrayal, and emerge not just intact, but stronger. The anger, which had once simmered beneath the surface, had truly dissipated, replaced by a sense of peace that came from understanding, from boundaries, and from the fierce protection of my own spirit. I began to notice the subtle ways my body had held the tension of years of emotional neglect. My shoulders, once perpetually hunched as if bracing for a blow, now relaxed. The knot in my stomach, a constant companion of anxiety, had loosened its grip. Even my breathing felt deeper, fuller, as if I was finally inhaling the world without fear. This physical release was a mirror to the emotional liberation I was experiencing. It was a testament to the profound connection between our inner and outer worlds, a spiritual awakening that transcended mere circumstance. I was no longer defined by their perception of me, but by my own unwavering truth. My relationship with Ava deepened in ways I hadn't anticipated. She had been my rock, my silent observer, my gentle guide through the darkest hours. Her unwavering belief in me, her quiet strength, had been a constant source of comfort and inspiration. We built a life together that was rooted in mutual respect, honest communication, and an understanding that neither of us needed to be rescued or fixed. We were two whole individuals, choosing to walk side by side, creating a shared space that was vibrant, authentic, and free from the shadows of past wounds. Our Sundays, once a quiet reprieve from family obligations, now became adventures, exploring new hiking trails, discovering hidden cafes, volunteering at a local animal shelter. Each shared experience was a brick in the foundation of our new, beautiful life. The changes within my family, though slow and often painful, continued to unfold. Lily and Noah, having faced the stark reality of their financial choices, began to make more conscious decisions. The financial counseling had not only taught them practical budgeting skills, but had also forced them to confront the underlying patterns of entitlement and impulsive spending that had led to their crisis. They started small, taking on extra work, cutting unnecessary expenses, and, most importantly, communicating more openly with each other. I saw a newfound humility in Lily, a softening around the edges that had been hardened by years of being the favored child. She even called me one day, not to ask for anything, but just to talk, to share a small victory she had achieved at work. It was a tentative step, a fragile bridge, but it was a bridge nonetheless. Mark and his parents, too, continued their journey in therapy. Dr. Miriam was a master at gently peeling back the layers of denial and ingrained patterns. They began to understand how their actions, born perhaps not of malice but of unconscious bias and a desire to protect Lily, had deeply impacted me. The public acknowledgement, though initially humiliating for them, had been a crucial turning point. At the next family gathering, a subdued Christmas dinner, Mark, with a tremor in his voice, had spoken about the imbalance and expectations that had shaped our family. My mother-in-law, her eyes downcast, had added her own words of regret, acknowledging the blindness that had prevented them from truly seeing my struggles and achievements. It wasn't a grand apology, but it was an honest one, a public recognition that shifted the dynamic in a way no private conversation ever could have. For me, this shift wasn't about seeking revenge or demanding an apology. It was about truth. It was about creating a space where honesty could finally breathe, where the unspoken could finally be spoken. The wounds were still there, faint scars on my soul, but they no longer dictated my present or future. I had learned that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or excusing their actions. It was about releasing myself from the burden of carrying their emotional debt. It was about choosing my own peace, my own happiness, my own path forward. The question that now resonated within me, a quiet affirmation, was not what they could give me, but what I could give myself, and how I could continue to nurture this vibrant, authentic life I had so bravely claimed. What new adventures awaited me, now that I was truly free to embrace them? The freedom I now experienced was multifaceted, extending beyond the emotional and financial realms into a deeper, spiritual liberation. It was as if a heavy cloak, woven from years of unspoken expectations and unacknowledged sacrifices, had finally been shed, revealing the true essence of who I was meant to be. This newfound lightness wasn't just a feeling. It manifested in every aspect of my existence. My creativity, once stifled by the constant need to prove my worth, began to flourish. I found myself drawn to new hobbies, exploring painting and pottery, allowing my hands to create beauty for the sheer joy of it, without the pressure of external validation. It was a profound act of self-expression, a reclaiming of the playful, artistic spirit that had been dormant for so long. My professional life also underwent a quiet transformation. No longer driven by a desperate need for security or a desire to impress, I approached my work with a renewed sense of purpose and passion. I sought out projects that genuinely challenged and inspired me, taking on leadership roles that I might have shied away from before. My colleagues noticed the change, commenting on my increased confidence and my calm, decisive demeanor. It wasn't about climbing a corporate ladder. It was about building something meaningful, contributing my unique talents to the world in a way that felt authentic and fulfilling. The financial success that followed was a welcome byproduct, but no longer the primary motivator. The relationship with my parents-in-law, while still delicate, continued to evolve. The therapy sessions had opened channels of communication that had been blocked for decades. They were learning to listen, truly listen, without immediately jumping to defensiveness or judgment. There were still moments of awkwardness, of old habits resurfacing, but now there was also a willingness to acknowledge and correct. My mother-in-law, in particular, began to reach out to me in small, unexpected ways. A thoughtful text about a book she thought I might enjoy, an invitation for coffee that wasn't tied to a family obligation. These gestures, once unthinkable, were tentative olive branches, signs of a genuine effort to bridge the chasm that had separated us for so long. Mark, too, began to show subtle signs of change. Our conversations, though still not deeply intimate, became less strained, more respectful. He started asking about my work, my hobbies, my life, not out of obligation, but with a genuine, if still somewhat hesitant, curiosity. One evening, he even apologized, unprompted, for his role in that fateful dinner, for his silence, for his agreement. "I was scared, Sarah," he admitted, his voice low, filled with a regret I had never heard before. "Scared of losing Lily, scared of the conflict. I didn't realize what I was doing to you. It wasn't a complete absolution, but it was an acknowledgement, a crack in the armor of his stoicism that allowed a sliver of vulnerability to shine through. It was a moment that, while not erasing the past, offered a glimmer of hope for a different kind of future, a future where honesty, however painful, could finally exist between us." Lily and Noah, having navigated their financial crisis, were also finding their footing. The experience had forced them to mature, to take responsibility for their choices in a way they never had before. Lily, once so focused on external validation and the approval of Ethan's family, began to cultivate her own sense of self-worth. She started pursuing a passion project she had long put aside, a small online business selling handmade jewelry. It was a quiet rebellion against the expectations that had once defined her, a journey of self-discovery that mirrored my own. Our relationship, once fraught with unspoken resentment, began to heal, slowly, tentatively. We started meeting for lunch, just the two of us, talking about our lives, our dreams, our struggles, not as mother and daughter in a hierarchical dynamic, but as two women navigating the complexities of life. This entire experience had taught me a profound truth, that true strength lies not in enduring silently, but in speaking your truth, in setting boundaries, and in fiercely protecting your own well-being. It taught me that love, in its purest form, should elevate, not diminish. It should empower, not control. And it taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for others is to teach them how to stand on their own, even if it means stepping back and allowing them to face the consequences of their own choices. The path ahead was still unfolding, filled with its own uncertainties, but I walked it with a lightness in my step, a quiet confidence in my heart, and a deep sense of gratitude for the woman I had become. What new lessons, what new joys, what new challenges awaited me on this beautifully authentic journey of self-discovery. The transformation wasn't just about the absence of pain or the presence of peace. It was about a profound shift in my perception of the world and my place within it. I no longer viewed life through the lens of scarcity, constantly fearing rejection or abandonment. Instead, I embraced an abundance mindset, recognizing the richness of my experiences, the depth of my relationships, and the boundless potential within me. This spiritual awakening allowed me to see beauty in the mundane, to find joy in simple moments, and to approach challenges not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and learning. It was as if a filter had been removed from my eyes, revealing a vibrant, interconnected tapestry of existence that had always been there, waiting to be seen. My connection to nature deepened significantly. I found solace and inspiration in long walks through local parks, the rustling leaves whispering ancient secrets, the sturdy trees standing as symbols of resilience. I started a small herb garden on my apartment balcony, nurturing the delicate plants with a tenderness that mirrored the care I was now giving to myself. Watching them grow, thrive, and provide sustenance was a powerful metaphor for my own journey of healing and self-cultivation. It was a grounding practice, a way to reconnect with the earth and its cycles, reminding me that life, in all its forms, is constantly evolving, constantly renewing itself. The concept of family itself began to expand for me. While my biological family was slowly, tentatively healing, I also recognized the profound importance of my chosen family, friends like Ava, colleagues who had become trusted confidants, and the wider community of individuals who supported and uplifted me. These were the people who saw me, truly saw me, without judgment or expectation. They celebrated my successes, offered comfort in my struggles, and reminded me of my inherent worth. This realization was liberating, freeing me from the narrow definition of family that had once caused so much pain. It taught me that love and connection are not limited by blood, but by shared values, mutual respect, and genuine care. I also found myself drawn to acts of service, a desire to give back to the world that had, in its own way, given me so much. I started volunteering at a women's shelter, offering my skills in financial literacy to help other women build their own foundations of independence. It was a deeply fulfilling experience, a way to channel my past pain into a source of strength and empowerment for others. Hearing their stories, witnessing their resilience, and seeing the hope in their eyes as they took their first steps towards a new life reinforced my own journey and reminded me of the universal human capacity for healing and transformation. The lingering shadows of my past, though diminished, occasionally resurfaced. There were still moments when a particular phrase, a familiar scent, or a fleeting memory would trigger a pang of the old hurt. But now, instead of being consumed by it, I had the tools to acknowledge it, to process it, and to release it. I learned to sit with the discomfort, to observe it without judgment, and to remind myself of how far I had come. It was a practice of self-compassion, a gentle acknowledgement that healing is not a linear process, but a continuous journey of growth and integration. Each time I navigated these moments with grace and self-awareness, my inner strength grew, solidifying my sense of self. This journey had been a profound spiritual odyssey, a testament to the power of self-love and the courage to redefine one's own narrative. It taught me that true freedom isn't found in the absence of challenges, but in the ability to face them with integrity and an unwavering commitment to your own truth. It taught me that sometimes the greatest act of love is to set boundaries, not to push people away, but to create a space where genuine connection, based on mutual respect, can finally flourish. The road ahead was still unwritten, but I walked it with an open heart, a clear mind, and a spirit that finally felt whole, ready to embrace whatever new chapters life had in store. What profound wisdom would the next phase of this authentic journey reveal? And how would I continue to weave the threads of my past into a tapestry of a vibrant, self-determined future? The concept of time itself seemed to shift for me. No longer was I rushing, constantly trying to catch up or prove myself. Instead, I embraced a slower, more deliberate pace, savoring each moment, each breath. This wasn't idleness. It was intentional living, a conscious choice to be present and fully engaged with my life as it unfolded. I found immense joy in the small rituals of my day, the quiet contemplation over my morning coffee, the focused concentration during my work, the shared laughter with Ava over dinner. These moments, once overlooked in my frantic pursuit of external validation, now formed the rich tapestry of my existence, each thread contributing to a sense of profound contentment. My physical health, too, saw remarkable improvements. The chronic tension headaches that had plagued me for years began to subside. My sleep became deeper, more restorative, free from the restless anxieties that had once kept me awake. I started incorporating gentle yoga and meditation into my daily routine, practices that not only strengthened my body, but also quieted my mind, allowing me to connect with an inner stillness I hadn't known was possible. It was a holistic healing, a testament to the interconnectedness of mind, body, and spirit, and a powerful reminder that true well-being stems from nurturing all aspects of oneself. The ripple effect of my transformation extended even to my professional network. I found myself attracting new opportunities, not through aggressive pursuit, but through a genuine alignment of values and purpose. Collaborations emerged organically, partnerships formed with individuals who shared my vision for ethical, impactful work. My reputation grew, not just for my technical skills, but for my integrity, my calm leadership, and my ability to foster a supportive and respectful environment. It was a powerful affirmation that when you operate from a place of authenticity and self-respect, the right opportunities and people naturally gravitate towards you. My interactions with Lily, while still evolving, began to carry a new depth. She was no longer the entitled daughter I had once known, but a young woman grappling with the complexities of adulthood, learning to navigate her own challenges. We found common ground in discussing our respective entrepreneurial ventures, sharing advice and encouragement. There was a newfound respect in her voice, a recognition of my journey that felt genuine. She even confided in me about some of the pressures she faced from Ethan's family, the very family she had once prioritized above all else. It was a poignant moment, a quiet acknowledgement of the burdens that come with any form of perceived firstness, and a subtle validation of the freedom I had found in choosing my own path. Mark's journey of self-reflection continued, albeit at his own pace. While he might never fully articulate the depth of his regret, His actions spoke volumes. He began to take a more active role in managing his own finances, seeking advice from a professional rather than relying on the unspoken expectation that I would always be there to bail them out. He also started spending more time on his hobbies, rediscovering passions he had long neglected. It was a quiet reclaiming of his own identity, a subtle shift away from the role of the perpetually distracted husband and father, who had once seemed to exist solely in the orbit of Lily's needs. The changes were incremental, but they were real, signs of a man slowly, painstakingly, finding his own footing in a world that no longer revolved around a single favored child. This entire experience had been a profound lesson in the power of self-advocacy and the transformative potential of setting clear, loving boundaries. It taught me that true strength isn't about enduring silently, but about finding your voice and using it to create a life that honors your deepest values. It taught me that healing is not about erasing the past, but about integrating it, learning from it, and allowing it to shape you into a more compassionate, resilient, and authentic version of yourself. The journey was far from over, but I walked it with a profound sense of gratitude for the woman I had become, a woman who was finally, unequivocally, first in her own life. What new horizons would this empowered perspective reveal, and how would I continue to inspire others to claim their own narratives of strength and self-love? The concept of home itself had been redefined for me. It was no longer a physical structure filled with the echoes of past hurts and unfulfilled expectations. Instead, home became an internal state, a feeling of belonging and peace that I carried within myself, regardless of my physical location. My apartment, with its tall windows and vibrant plant life, was a beautiful manifestation of this inner sanctuary, a space where I felt safe, cherished, and completely myself. But the true home was the quiet confidence in my heart, the unwavering connection to my own spirit, and the deep sense of contentment that permeated my being. This realization was profoundly liberating, freeing me from the need to seek external validation or to define my worth by the approval of others. My spiritual practices deepened, becoming an integral part of my daily life. I explored various forms of meditation, finding particular resonance with mindfulness practices that allowed me to observe my thoughts and emotions without judgment. I also delved into ancient wisdom traditions, finding universal truths that echoed my own journey of self-discovery and transformation. These practices provided a framework for understanding the interconnectedness of all things, for cultivating compassion, and for recognizing the divine spark within myself and others. It was a journey of profound spiritual growth, a continuous unfolding of consciousness that brought a deeper meaning and purpose to my existence. The ripple effect of my transformation continued to touch unexpected corners of my life. Old friendships, which had faded over the years due to my preoccupation with family dynamics, began to rekindle. Friends from college and early career days, sensing a shift in my energy, reached out, eager to reconnect. These reunions were filled with warmth, laughter, and a shared sense of nostalgia, but also with a newfound appreciation for the authentic connections we were now able to forge. It was a beautiful reminder that when you prioritize your own well-being, you not only heal yourself, but also create space for genuine, supportive relationships to flourish in your life. My relationship with Ava continued to be a cornerstone of my new life. Our bond was built on a foundation of deep trust, mutual respect, and an unspoken understanding that transcended words. We celebrated each other's successes, offered solace in moments of vulnerability, and continuously challenged each other to grow and evolve. Our conversations were rich and meaningful, exploring everything from the mundane details of our day to the profound questions of existence. She was not just a partner, she was a soulmate, a fellow traveler on this journey of life, and her presence was a constant source of joy, inspiration, and unwavering support. Even the most distant relatives, those who had once been mere acquaintances at family gatherings, began to approach me differently. There was a newfound curiosity in their eyes, a subtle shift in their demeanor. Some would ask about my work, genuinely interested in my achievements. Others would comment on my apparent peace, asking, "What's your secret, Sarah? You seem so content." I would smile, a genuine, unforced smile, and share snippets of my journey, emphasizing the importance of self-love, boundaries, and the courage to choose your own path. It wasn't about preaching. It was about sharing my truth, offering a glimpse into the transformative power of reclaiming one's narrative. This entire experience had been a profound testament to the human spirit's capacity for resilience, healing, and self-reinvention. It taught me that true strength isn't about avoiding pain, but about walking through it with integrity and emerging on the other side with a deeper understanding of yourself and the world. It taught me that sometimes the greatest act of love is to choose yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of a profound recognition of your own inherent worth. The journey was a continuous unfolding, a beautiful tapestry woven with threads of challenge, growth, and unwavering self-love. I was no longer just surviving. I was thriving, living a life that was authentically mine, a testament to the quiet power of a woman who finally chose to be first in her own story. What further depths of wisdom and joy would this empowered existence reveal? And how would I continue to illuminate the path for others seeking their own liberation? The journey of self-discovery had also led me to a deeper understanding of forgiveness, not as an act of condoning past wrongs, but as a release from the emotional chains that bound me to them. It was a profound spiritual practice, a conscious decision to let go of resentment and bitterness, not for their sake, but for my own peace. I realized that holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Forgiveness became an act of radical self-love, a way to reclaim my emotional freedom and to create space for new, more positive emotions to flourish within me. This didn't mean forgetting the past or pretending it didn't hurt. It meant acknowledging the pain, learning its lessons, and then choosing to move forward with an open heart, unburdened by the weight of what once was. This newfound capacity for forgiveness extended not only to my family but also to myself. For years, I had carried a subtle undercurrent of self-blame, questioning why I hadn't seen the pattern sooner, why I had allowed myself to be treated as last for so long. I forgave myself for my past naivete, for my desperate longing for approval, for the silent endurance that had once defined me. I understood that I had done the best I could with the knowledge and emotional resources I had at the time. This act of self-compassion was incredibly liberating, allowing me to shed the last vestiges of guilt and to embrace my journey with kindness and understanding. My creative pursuits continued to expand, becoming a vital outlet for my evolving self. My paintings, once tentative and introspective, now burst with vibrant colors and bold strokes, reflecting the inner joy and confidence I had cultivated. My pottery, initially simple and functional, began to take on more intricate forms, each piece telling a story of resilience and transformation. I even started writing, not code this time, but poetry and short stories, giving voice to the myriad emotions and insights I had gathered along my journey. It was a powerful reminder that creativity is not just a hobby. It is a fundamental aspect of the human spirit, a way to express our deepest truths and to connect with the universal flow of creation. The lessons learned from my family's crisis also inspired me to become an advocate for financial literacy and emotional well-being. I started a small online platform, sharing my experiences and offering practical advice on budgeting, investing, and setting healthy boundaries. It was a way to pay forward the wisdom I had gained, to empower others to avoid similar pitfalls, and to build their own foundations of independence. The response was overwhelming, with messages pouring in from people around the world who resonated with my story and found inspiration in my journey. It was a humbling experience, a powerful affirmation that sharing our vulnerabilities can create profound connections and spark transformative change in the lives of others. My relationship with Lily continued to deepen, evolving into a bond of genuine sisterhood, free from the old competitive dynamic. We often met for coffee, sharing stories about our work, our dreams, and the challenges of navigating complex family relationships. She spoke openly about her struggles with Ethan's family, admitting that the firstness she had once coveted came with its own set of pressures and expectations. It was a poignant moment of shared understanding, a recognition that every path has its own unique burdens and blessings. We laughed, we commiserated, and we offered each other unconditional support. Two women who had once been pitted against each other, now united by a shared journey of growth and self-discovery. This entire experience had been a profound spiritual pilgrimage, a testament to the soul's capacity for healing, growth, and radical self-love. It taught me that true power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering oneself, not in seeking external validation, but in cultivating an unwavering inner knowing. It taught me that life's greatest challenges are often disguised as its greatest opportunities for transformation, pushing us to shed old skins and step into the fullness of who we are meant to be. The path ahead was still unfolding, but I walked it with a heart full of gratitude, a spirit ablaze with purpose, and an unshakable belief in the beauty and resilience of the human spirit. What further depths of wisdom and joy would this authentic existence reveal? And how would I continue to inspire others to embark on their own journeys of liberation and self-discovery? The concept of resilience, once an abstract term, had become a lived experience, etched into the very core of my being. It wasn't about being impervious to pain, but about the ability to bend without breaking, to face adversity with courage, and to emerge from the crucible of challenge with renewed strength and clarity. This resilience wasn't a solitary achievement. It was nurtured by the unwavering support of Ava, the slow but steady healing of my family relationships, and the profound connection I had forged with my own inner wisdom. It was a testament to the human spirit's remarkable capacity to not just survive, but to truly thrive, even in the face of profound emotional upheaval. My engagement with the world became more intentional, more mindful. I found myself drawn to causes that championed fairness, equity, and the empowerment of marginalized voices. I used my platform, born from my own journey, to speak out against subtle forms of emotional manipulation and financial abuse within families, advocating for clear communication and healthy boundaries. It wasn't about anger or blame. It was about education, about raising awareness, and about providing tools for others to navigate similar challenges with greater strength and self-awareness. This advocacy became a powerful extension of my personal healing, transforming my individual pain into a source of collective empowerment. The spiritual dimension of my life continued to deepen, evolving into a rich tapestry of practices and insights. I explored the power of gratitude, consciously cultivating an appreciation for the blessings in my life, both big and small. This practice shifted my perspective, allowing me to focus on what was working, on what was beautiful, rather than dwelling on past hurts or perceived deficiencies. I also delved into the concept of interconnectedness, recognizing that my journey was not isolated, but part of a larger human experience, a shared quest for meaning, connection, and self-realization. This holistic understanding brought a profound sense of peace and belonging, anchoring me in the universal flow of life. My relationship with Mark, while never returning to its former intimacy, settled into a new, respectful equilibrium. We were no longer husband and wife in the traditional sense, but two individuals who shared a complex history and a common desire for the well-being of our daughter. He continued his own journey of self-reflection, slowly dismantling the ingrained patterns of a lifetime. He even started attending some of my online workshops on financial literacy, a quiet acknowledgement of his past struggles and a genuine effort to learn and grow. It was a testament to the fact that healing and transformation are possible at any age, and that even the most entrenched patterns can be shifted with conscious effort and a willingness to change. Lily, in her own right, continued to blossom. Her handmade jewelry business thrived, a testament to her creativity and newfound independence. She spoke with pride about her accomplishments, no longer seeking external validation, but celebrating her own inner strength. Our conversations became more frequent, more open, and more genuinely supportive. She even confided in me about her decision to set clearer boundaries with Ethan's family, recognizing that while their traditions were important, her own well-being and her nuclear family with Noah also deserved to be prioritized. It was a powerful moment of role reversal, a beautiful affirmation that the lessons I had learned and the boundaries I had set had not only transformed my life, but had also empowered my daughter to claim her own agency. This entire odyssey had been a profound testament to the power of personal transformation and the ripple effect it can have on an entire family system. It taught me that true love is not about sacrifice without boundaries, but about mutual respect, honest communication, and the courage to allow each individual to flourish in their own unique way. It taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to step back, to allow others to face their own challenges, and to trust in their capacity for growth and change. The path ahead was still an open book, but I walked it with a heart full of gratitude, a spirit brimming with purpose, and an unshakable belief in the boundless potential of the human spirit to heal, to grow, and to create a life of profound meaning and joy. What further insights and adventures awaited me on this beautifully authentic journey of self-mastery and interconnectedness? The concept of self-worth, once a fragile construct dependent on external validation, had solidified into an unshakable inner knowing. It wasn't something I had to earn or prove. It was an inherent truth, a birthright I had finally reclaimed. This profound shift allowed me to move through the world with a quiet confidence, unburdened by the need for approval or the fear of judgment. I understood that my value was intrinsic, not contingent on my achievements, my relationships, or the opinions of others. This was the ultimate liberation, a spiritual anchor that held me steady amidst the ever-changing currents of life. My advocacy work continued to expand, reaching a wider audience and sparking meaningful conversations. I was invited to speak at conferences, to share my story on podcasts, and to contribute articles to online publications. My message was simple yet powerful. You have the right to set boundaries, to prioritize your own well-being, and to create a life that truly reflects your values, even if it means challenging long-held family dynamics. I emphasized that this wasn't about selfishness, but about self-preservation, about cultivating a strong inner foundation from which genuine love and connection could truly flourish. The feedback I received was overwhelmingly positive, with countless individuals sharing how my story had empowered them to take their own courageous steps towards self-liberation. The spiritual practices I had embraced continued to deepen, becoming a wellspring of inner peace and wisdom. I found myself drawn to contemplative walks in nature, allowing the quiet beauty of the natural world to soothe my soul and inspire profound insights. I also explored the power of journaling, using it as a tool for self-reflection, for processing emotions, and for charting my spiritual growth. It was a sacred practice, a way to connect with my inner voice, and to gain clarity on my path. These practices were not just rituals, they were essential anchors, grounding me in the present moment and connecting me to a sense of purpose that transcended the mundane. My relationship with Mark, while maintaining its respectful distance, occasionally offered glimpses of a deeper understanding. He would sometimes send me articles related to financial planning or personal growth, a subtle acknowledgement of my expertise, and a quiet nod to his own ongoing journey. There was a sense of mutual respect that had replaced the old resentment, a recognition that we had both grown, albeit on separate paths. It was a testament to the fact that even after profound ruptures, relationships can find a new form, a new equilibrium, if both parties are willing to engage in the difficult work of self-reflection and change. Lily's journey of self-discovery continued to inspire me. She had not only built a successful business, but had also cultivated a stronger sense of self-identity, independent of external pressures. She spoke with a newfound clarity about her values, her aspirations, and the kind of life she wanted to create for herself and her family. Our bond had transformed into a true friendship, characterized by open communication, mutual support, and a shared understanding of the complexities of life. She even sought my advice on navigating difficult conversations with Ethan's family, a powerful indication of her trust in my wisdom and her own growing confidence in setting boundaries. It was a beautiful full-circle moment, a testament to the fact that the lessons we learn, when applied with courage and integrity, can ripple outwards, transforming not only our own lives, but also the lives of those we love. This entire experience had been a profound testament to the transformative power of self-love, resilience, and the courage to redefine one's own narrative. It taught me that true freedom isn't found in the absence of challenges, but in the unwavering commitment to your own truth, even when it means standing alone. It taught me that sometimes the greatest act of love is to empower others to find their own strength, to allow them to face their own lessons, and to trust in their capacity for growth and change. The path ahead was still unfolding, but I walked it with a heart full of gratitude, a spirit ablaze with purpose, and an unshakable belief in the boundless potential of the human spirit to heal, to grow, and to create a life of profound meaning and joy. What further insights and adventures awaited me on this beautifully authentic journey of self-mastery and interconnectedness, and how would I continue to illuminate the path for others seeking their own liberation and self-discovery? The concept of legacy had taken on a new meaning for me. It was no longer about material possessions or external achievements, but about the impact I had on others, the wisdom I shared, and the authentic life I lived. My legacy was woven into the stories of the women I helped empower through my financial literacy workshops, the seeds of change I planted in my family, and the unwavering commitment to living a life of integrity and purpose. This realization brought a profound sense of fulfillment, a knowing that my journey, with all its pain and triumphs, was contributing to something larger than myself, a ripple effect of positive change in the world. My commitment to lifelong learning deepened, becoming a cornerstone of my personal and spiritual growth. I enrolled in online courses, attended workshops on various topics, and devoured books on philosophy, psychology, and spirituality. This intellectual curiosity was not driven by a need for external validation, but by an intrinsic desire to expand my understanding of myself and the world around me. Each new piece of knowledge, each new insight, enriched my perspective and deepened my appreciation for the complexity and beauty of existence. It was a continuous journey of intellectual and spiritual expansion, a testament to the endless possibilities of human potential. The spiritual practices I had cultivated continued to evolve, becoming more integrated into the fabric of my daily life. I found myself practicing mindfulness not just during formal meditation sessions, but in every moment, while cooking, walking, or engaging in conversation. This constant awareness brought a profound sense of presence and connection, allowing me to experience the richness of life in its entirety. I also explored the power of ritual, creating small, meaningful ceremonies to mark significant milestones, or to simply express gratitude for the blessings in my life. These practices were not about dogma. They were about cultivating a deeper connection to my inner wisdom and to the universal source of all creation. My relationship with Mark, while remaining a respectful co-parenting dynamic, occasionally surprised me with moments of unexpected warmth. He would sometimes share a memory from our early years, a shared laugh about a silly anecdote, a fleeting glimpse of the connection we once had. These moments were rare, but they were genuine, a testament to the enduring threads of our shared history. It wasn't about rekindling a romantic relationship, but about acknowledging the complex tapestry of our past and finding a way to honor it with grace and mutual respect. It was a powerful reminder that even after profound changes, human connections can find new forms, new expressions, if approached with an open heart and a willingness to evolve. Lily's journey, in particular, continued to be a source of immense pride and inspiration. She had not only built a thriving business, but had also become a compassionate and insightful young woman, deeply committed to her own growth and the well-being of her family. She often sought my advice, not just on practical matters, but on navigating complex emotional challenges, a testament to her trust in my wisdom and her own growing maturity. Our bond had transformed into a profound friendship, characterized by deep respect, open communication, and an unwavering belief in each other's potential. It was a beautiful full-circle moment, a powerful affirmation that the lessons we learn, when embraced with courage and integrity, can ripple outwards, transforming not only our own lives, but also the lives of those we love, creating a legacy of strength, resilience, and authentic self-expression. This entire experience had been a profound testament to the human spirit's capacity for healing, growth, and radical self-reinvention. It taught me that true power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering oneself, not in seeking external validation, but in cultivating an unwavering inner knowing. It taught me that life's greatest challenges are often disguised as its greatest opportunities for transformation, pushing us to shed old skins and step into the fullness of who we are meant to be. The path ahead was still unfolding, but I walked it with a heart full of gratitude, a spirit ablaze with purpose, and an unshakable belief in the beauty and resilience of the human spirit. What further depths of wisdom and joy would this authentic existence reveal? And how would I continue to illuminate the path for others, seeking their own liberation and self-discovery, leaving behind a legacy of courage, compassion, and unwavering self-love? The profound shift in my life had also brought a deeper appreciation for the concept of interconnectedness, recognizing that my individual journey was inextricably linked to the larger tapestry of humanity. I understood that my healing was not an isolated event, but a contribution to the collective consciousness, a testament to the power of one individual to spark change in the world. This awareness fostered a sense of profound responsibility, inspiring me to continue sharing my story, to advocate for those who felt unheard, and to champion the values of empathy, respect, and authentic connection. It was a spiritual calling, a recognition that my personal transformation had a purpose beyond myself, a role in contributing to a more compassionate and just world. My creative expressions continued to evolve, becoming more refined and impactful. My paintings, now exhibited in local galleries, evoked a sense of hope and resilience, inspiring viewers to reflect on their own journeys of self-discovery. My writing, published in various online journals, resonated with readers who found solace and strength in my words. I even began exploring music, learning to play a simple instrument, allowing melodies to flow through me as another form of emotional release and spiritual expression. This multifaceted creativity was a constant reminder of the boundless potential within each of us, a testament to the healing power of art and the profound joy of self-expression. The spiritual practices I had embraced had become an intuitive part of my being, guiding my decisions and shaping my interactions. I found myself naturally gravitating towards moments of stillness and contemplation, allowing my inner wisdom to guide me through life's complexities. I also developed a deeper connection to my intuition, trusting the subtle nudges and insights that arose from within. This inner guidance became my compass, leading me towards choices that were aligned with my highest good and the greater good of all. It was a profound journey of spiritual attunement, a continuous unfolding of my innate connection to the divine. My interactions with Mark, while infrequent, were now characterized by a quiet dignity and mutual respect. There were no longer any lingering shadows of resentment or unspoken accusations. We communicated clearly and directly, focusing on practical matters related to Lily and her family, and occasionally sharing updates on our individual lives. It was a mature and healthy dynamic, a testament to the fact that even after the dissolution of a marriage, two individuals can find a way to coexist peacefully and respectfully, honoring their shared history while forging separate, authentic paths. It was a powerful example of how boundaries, when set with integrity and compassion, can ultimately lead to a more harmonious, albeit different, form of connection. Lily's journey continued to be a beacon of hope and inspiration. She had fully embraced her independence, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually. Her business flourished, her relationships deepened, and her sense of self-worth radiated from within. She became an advocate in her own right, using her platform to encourage young women to pursue their passions and to stand firm in their values. Our bond had evolved into a profound and beautiful friendship, a testament to the power of healing and the transformative potential of authentic connection. We often spoke about the past, not with bitterness, but with a shared understanding of the lessons learned and the growth achieved. It was a powerful full-circle moment, a beautiful affirmation that even the most painful experiences can ultimately lead to profound transformation and a deeper, more meaningful connection. This entire odyssey had been a profound testament to the human spirit's capacity for resilience, healing, and radical self-reinvention. It taught me that true power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering oneself, not in seeking external validation, but in cultivating an unwavering inner knowing. It taught me that life's greatest challenges are often disguised as its greatest opportunities for transformation, pushing us to shed old skins and step into the fullness of who we are meant to be. The path ahead was still unfolding, but I walked it with a heart full of gratitude, a spirit ablaze with purpose, and an unshakable belief in the beauty and resilience of the human spirit. What further depths of wisdom and joy would this authentic existence reveal, and how would I continue to illuminate the path for others seeking their own liberation and self-discovery, leaving behind a legacy of courage, compassion, and unwavering self-love? A testament to the quiet power of a woman who finally chose to be first in her own story, and in doing so, inspired a ripple effect of change that touched countless lives. The culmination of my journey was not a grand, singular event, but a continuous unfolding of a life lived with intention, authenticity, and profound joy. The scars of the past remained, faint but visible, not as reminders of pain, but as badges of honor, testaments to the battles fought and the victories won. They were a part of my story, woven into the rich tapestry of who I had become, a woman forged in the fires of adversity, emerging with an unshakable spirit and an open heart. This was my ultimate triumph, not just surviving, but thriving, creating a life that was unequivocally, unapologetically, and beautifully mine. My commitment to fostering authentic connections continued to be a guiding principle. I cultivated relationships that were built on mutual respect, genuine empathy, and a shared desire for growth. My circle of friends expanded, encompassing individuals from diverse backgrounds and perspectives, each one enriching my life in unique ways. We shared laughter, tears, dreams, and challenges, creating a vibrant community of support and understanding. It was a powerful reminder that true connection is not about quantity, but about quality, about the depth of shared experience, and the willingness to truly see and honor one another. The spiritual journey I had embarked upon had become the very essence of my being. I lived each day with a profound sense of gratitude, recognizing the sacredness in every moment, every interaction. My intuition had sharpened, becoming a reliable inner compass that guided me through life's complexities with grace and clarity. I found myself increasingly drawn to moments of quiet contemplation, allowing the wisdom of the universe to flow through me, inspiring me to live with greater purpose and compassion. It was a continuous dance between inner reflection and outer action, a harmonious balance that brought a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. My relationship with Mark, while forever changed, had found its final, respectful form. We were no longer bound by the expectations of a traditional marriage, but by the enduring threads of a shared past and a mutual commitment to Lily's well-being. Our interactions were brief, polite, and focused, devoid of the emotional baggage that had once weighed us down. It was a testament to the fact that even after profound ruptures, individuals can find a way to coexist with dignity and respect, honoring the past while embracing separate, authentic futures. It was a powerful example of how healing can lead to a new kind of harmony, a different, yet equally valid form of connection. Lily, my beautiful daughter, had truly come into her own. She was a confident, compassionate, and independent woman, a testament to her own resilience and the transformative power of facing one's own challenges. Her business thrived, her relationships flourished, and her sense of self-worth radiated from within. Our bond had evolved into a profound and cherished friendship, a testament to the healing power of open communication, mutual respect, and unconditional love. We often spoke about the past, not with bitterness, but with a shared understanding of the lessons learned and the growth achieved. It was a powerful full-circle moment, a beautiful affirmation that even the most painful experiences can ultimately lead to profound transformation and a deeper, more meaningful connection. A legacy of strength, resilience, and authentic self-expression that would continue to inspire for generations to come. This entire odyssey had been a profound testament to the human spirit's boundless capacity for resilience, healing, and radical self-reinvention. It taught me that true power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering oneself, not in seeking external validation, but in cultivating an unwavering inner knowing. It taught me that life's greatest challenges are often disguised as its greatest opportunities for transformation, pushing us to shed old skins and step into the fullness of who we are meant to be. The path ahead was still unfolding, but I walked it with a heart full of gratitude, a spirit ablaze with purpose, and an unshakable belief in the beauty and resilience of the human spirit. I continued to illuminate the path for others seeking their own liberation and self-discovery, leaving behind a legacy of courage, compassion, and unwavering self-love, a testament to the quiet power of a woman who finally chose to be first in her own story, and in doing so, inspired a ripple effect of change that touched countless lives, proving that families don't always change because they want to, but sometimes they change because someone stops carrying the weight for them, and in that courageous act finds their truest, most authentic self.